channel, or welcome if you're new here. I do my makeup while I talk out X things X-Files. I took a poll over on Twitter, as I do every week, for this week's video topic, and the winner was the timeline of Mulder and Scully's feelings for each other. So this week, I'll be talking about when I think each of them fell in love, who fell in love first, and when I think their first time was into relation to all of this. I will also touch on the awkwardness of season 8, which kind of plays into all of this. So before we begin, let's get those disclaimers out of the way. If you hear paper rustling, that's because I have my notes down here in front of me. I also have dogs, so if you hear or see them, I apologize in advance. I'm not a professional when it comes to makeup. I just do what I do and play around with it. If you see me looking here or here, that's because that's where my mirrors are. If I'm looking down, that's because that's where my notes are. As always, I'll leave all makeup products that I use down in the description below for those who are interested. So with all of that fun stuff out of the way, let's get on with it, shall we? Okay. So let's start with Scully, because I think she fell in love first. So, I think Scully first realized she liked Mulder about mid-season 1, as shown by her slight jealousy towards Phoebe in the episode Fire. In EBE, Mulder tells Scully, "We're alone on this. There's no one we can trust." This is one of the first times that their connection to each other is really shown. Their connection is just them and kind of pushes everyone else out. Obviously, throughout the entire series, there's a sense of us against the world mentality. And that's kind of a romantic notion of sorts. And so I think Scully fell for this romantic notion. And so that's when, and so this falling for that romantic notion, that's kind of when I think she realized she was in love with Mulder, or that she loved Mulder. Not in love, just loved him. Scully even tries to hint at these feelings. In Tombs, by saying, "Mulder, I wouldn't put myself on the line for anybody but you." So I think she's kind of trying to test the waters and let him know that she cares deeply for him. To kind of see what he says back. Then they're taken off the X-Files and assigned to different areas. Even though they're in different areas, Scully still tries to connect with him and help him. She constantly tries to push herself onto his work by getting him to talk about the cases he's working on and volunteering to do all the autopsies. She even tried to talk him out of quitting the FBI when he thought that was his only option at this point. After all of this, Scully's, so then after, you know, all of that early season 2 stuff, Scully's then abducted. And I think her abduction makes her rein in her feelings a little bit and pull back and put up a little bit of a wall. And she's pretty good at keeping her feelings repressed up until mid-season 3, when her repressed feelings come out in the form of jealousy and being territorial in Syzygy and War of the Copperphages. So then Scully represses her feelings again. And we don't really see them come out again until Never Again. So everyone's take on this is different, but because of the order that they aired, I think Scully found out after Leonard Betts that she had cancer, but she hadn't told Mulder yet. So I think in Never Again, Scully knows she has cancer. And anyway, so she's kind of, you know, at the beginning there when she's talking about the desk and not having one and how she doesn't feel she really fits in, she's wanting Mulder's approval and to be treated like an equal, and Mulder, being Mulder, doesn't really give it to her, and he doesn't really know that's what she's doing. So she rebels in this episode. This is a very rebellious Scully in this episode. And I'm kind of here for it, you know, really. Scully's self-doubt and insecurities are put on the back burner for a while again. And then, so they're put back on the back burner, and then in the midst of her cancer, it brings her and Mulder closer together again for a brief period. And then she, you know, then she gets over the cancer, and her feelings go back into hiding. And then then they're back in hiding for a while until her insecurities and jealousy come back full force when Diana makes an appearance. She feels like she's being replaced and no longer needed by Mulder, both on the X-Files and as the person that he is closest to emotionally. That unspoken bond between them is suddenly threatened, and that's terrifying to Scully. She can't face it, and she does what she does best. She represses her feelings and puts a wall up. And I think that makes her a little bit more guarded and angry towards Mulder in season 5 and maybe early season 6. And I think that's why she so easily gives up in Fight the Future and decides to resign from the FBI, because she feels she was being replaced and not needed. She doesn't think Mulder needs her or wants her anymore. He has Diana now, or at least that's what she thinks. So now Scully's finally admitted to herself that she's in love with Mulder. I think Diana was kind of the push Scully needed to cross the bridge from love to in love. So now Scully's finally admitted to herself that she's in love with her partner, Mr. Spooky. But she's not ready to admit that out loud to anyone, especially him. Not until All Things, that is. I think her talking to Daniel made her realize that she's not the same person she used to be, and that there's only one right path for a person to take in their life, and that path brought her to Mulder, to quote her anyway. So for better or worse, the path brought her to Mulder. So now she's realizing the thing she always knew, that she's in love with Mulder. So she decides to take the plunge and go for it in All Things. And that's what leads to their first time. And I know that is a widely debated topic, but I stand by All Things being their first time. It just makes sense. Okay, that brings us to Mr. Spooky himself. I think Mulder's feelings are a little bit more straightforward than Scully's, but not by much, because this is Mulder and Scully we're talking about, and the X-Files, so nothing's as straightforward or as simple as one would think it could be. So I think Mulder realized between seasons 1 and 2 just how important Scully is to him. In the season 2 opener, Little Green Men, Mulder takes what we assume are notes via tape recorder, but then we find out that he's actually talking to Scully. He needs her badly enough that he's creating some way to talk to her and to keep her close, even though she's not physically there. He says to the tape recorder that before I could only trust myself, now I can only trust you, and they've taken you away from me. So then Scully goes to Mexico to rescue Mulder, because Scully's always rescuing Mulder, and that's just what she does. After Scully rescues him, she says that he lost everything once again. And he responds by saying, I may not have the X-Files, Scully, but I still have my work and I still got you. Not having Scully as a partner for the first part of season 2 made him realize how much he needs her, how much he misses her, because you know what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. This absence also showed him how much he enjoyed her company, as well as the banter between paranormal and science. As shown by this exchange in Sleepless, Scully says, "Must be nice not having someone question your every move, poking holes in all your theories." And Mulder sarcastically responds, "Oh yeah, it's great. I'm surprised how I put up with you for so long." So that just shows that Mulder really does need her, and her opinion matters to him. Then Scully's abducted. This is when I really think we see how much Mulder truly and deeply loves Scully. He barely functions when she's abducted. He doesn't sleep. He looks like hell all the time. And he puts all of his time and energy into finding her. In 3, we see that he's so vulnerable by the loss that he takes relief anywhere he can find it, even if that means in the bed of another woman. When Scully is finally returned to him, in one breath, Mulder basically hints to Scully that he loves her and needs her. This confession is ultimately what brings her back. And he says, "I feel, Scully, that you believe you're not ready to go. And you've always had the strength of your beliefs. I don't know if my being here will help bring you back, but I'm here." Mulder doesn't, so that's Mulder kind of putting his feelings out there in the Mulder way. Mulder doesn't bring his feelings up for his partner again for quite some time. And I think part of this is because I feel like Mulder is the type of guy who would go on living his life as platonic partners till he dies, if that's what she wanted, because he wouldn't do anything to risk that relationship by trying to further the relationship into anything more than friends. So I think, you know, he's always just constantly going to be waiting for her to make the first move, because I just think, I mean, maybe that's just me, but I think that's just how he is. Okay. Then cancer, so his feelings are still repressed. And then Scully's cancer diagnosis happens, and his feelings can't really be hidden away anymore. He must admit to himself that he not just loves his partner, but that he is in love with her. Mulder started considering that he can't live without this woman. He sees the woman that he loves desperately fighting for her life and losing that battle. And all she wants to do is protect him by offering to take the blame for the man that Mulder killed. I believe Mulder realizes right here that Scully may reciprocate some of his feelings. Just as much as he loves her, he thinks that maybe she loves him back, maybe just a little bit anyway. I think that's a big deal for someone like Mulder, because anyone he's ever loved has been lost in his life. And so he chose a life of being a loner because of that. And so I think that's also part of the reason he doesn't really want to fully admit and accept that he loves Scully, because he's afraid to lose her if he admits that. Eventually, Mulder's feelings get the best of him. And as a last-ditch effort to convince Scully to stay and not leave the FBI and fight the future, he takes a leap and confesses to her how much he needs her. Which isn't exactly a love confession, but for these two, it is. Because Mulder and Scully do nothing as like normal people would. And that's just part of their charm, I think, and part of why their relationship endures so much. So Mulder put his feelings out there and fight the future. But I think he's too afraid of losing Scully and their partnership that he waited for Scully to make the first move. And then, you know, all that stuff went down with Diana, where he was kind of being conflicted between a past love. Because if you watch my previous video, you know what I think of Diana and Mulder's past. I think that they used to be married, so I think that he used to love Diana, and now he loves Scully, so there's that conflicting feelings for him in season 6 of, oh, well, I love my partner, but my ex-wife is back, and I used to love her, and so I think he's just conflicted in season 6. And I think that's kind of why it's coming out as him being so cold to Scully, because he's conflicted. He doesn't know. His heart is telling him so many different things. Okay. But I also don't think that Mulder discovered the truth. But I also don't think that until Mulder discovered the truth of what really happened to Samantha, he doesn't feel free to do anything else. Finding Samantha has always been his quest, and the reason he started the X-Files to begin with. So I don't think that he'll be truly happy and willing to commit, or that until the truth of his sister's abduction is made known. Which brings us to closure. So finally, in closure, the answer he's been searching for his whole life has finally made itself known. We see Mulder here saying, I'm free. I take this to mean he's free to let go of his quest because he's found his answers. And he's free to put his love for Scully first before his quest of his sister. I don't think he could fully commit to her before this, like I just said. So him saying I'm free at the end of that episode, I think is kind of his way of doing that. Of accepting that he can love her now. But Mulder, being the gentleman and the romantic that he is, he didn't want to, he didn't want to ruin things, so he was waiting for Scully to say when it was time to commit, which she ended up saying in all things, as I had just said. So now let's talk about the season 8 awkwardness, because, you know, season 7, we obviously know that they love each other and that they're going to be together. So, and we know that Scully's pregnant with his baby at the very end of season 7. So why are they so awkward? Well, let me talk about it. So if you're like me, you were confused when you first watched season 8 because you thought that Mulder would come back, Mulder and Scully would pick up where they left off, and maybe lock themselves in a room for a few days to make up for lost time. Well, this obviously didn't happen, and after Mulder's abduction, coming back, he was suffering from PTSD because, I mean, that would be a traumatic experience for anybody. So he's suffering from PTSD, and he feels like he's being replaced by Doggett, and he didn't know where he belonged in Scully's life now, both professionally and personally. And I don't really 100% think he knows whether the baby is his or not, but you would think he would, because even if they didn't conceive William naturally, which I do think they did, but even if they didn't, in per Manum were shown that she had asked him to be a sperm donor anyway, so I feel like he would have known regardless that William was his baby anyway, because he helped her one way or another make that baby. So I don't get the whole him pretending he doesn't know about the baby thing, but anyway. So when he's finally forced to say goodbye to the X-Files, and it's given to Doggett, it allowed him the ability to focus on being a father and all the joys that come with it. Then in the season 8 finale, he tells Scully the truth we both know, which of course means that he loves her. He knows that he's William's father, and he wants to go forward in life with her. And then season 9 happens, and he's forced to go away again because these two just cannot catch a freaking break. And then in in the movie, I Went to Believe, that their relationship was then again tested by his quest to find the truth, because he's, hasn't been doing X-Files for a long time. So there's that test again. Is Scully more important to you than your quest, or is your quest more important than Scully? So finally at the end of so there for the part of the movie, we think he's going to choose his quest. And then at the end of the movie, he obviously sticks with Scully. And then season 10 happens. So the end of Want to Believe, we're like, oh great, they solved all their relationship woes. They're going to be together happily ever after. And then Chris Carter gives us season 10. And we find out that they had broken up since I Want to Believe. And I'll quickly touch on why I think that is. I still think that they're obviously very much in love, and they still very much love each other. But I think that because they, Scully talks to Sveta in season 10 about Mulder being on, and then she makes several quips asking Mulder if he's taking his meds. So I think when the alien colonization of 2012 didn't happen, it depressed Mulder. And I think that his depression was bad enough that it didn't make, that Scully didn't really know how to deal with it, and she was feeling like she was put on the back burner again. And so I think Scully left. And I don't think she left because she didn't love Mulder anymore, because I think she still did. But I think she left because she couldn't handle his depression and being made to feel like she was second place to another quest again. So I think she left to kind of make Mulder really realize his priorities again, and make him realize that he needs Scully back. And so at the end of season 10, they're kind of working towards getting back together. And then season 11, they ultimately do come back together, because Mulder has, accepted that that Scully is the most important to him, and he tried really hard to prove that to her all through season 11, and really make that a point, make her know how important she is. So I think Scully decided that, okay, his depression, I'm not second place to it anymore. He's kind of over it. And so then I think she was willing to come back together with him. And then we find out that they're going to have another baby. And obviously that's where it ended. I like to think that they're living in the unremarkable house somewhere in wedded bliss, raising their kid, who would now be 4, I think. Almost 4. So anyway, there you have it. That's my really long-winded timeline of when Mulder and Scully each fell for each other, and a little bit about their relationship woes. So please let me know in the comments below if you agree with any of these points or if you disagree with any of these points. I put polls up on Twitter for the video topics each week, so make sure you follow me over there. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you like what you see. Until next time, this is Taylor, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.